Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. I hope the day is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. You might hear my throat is pretty croaky at the moment. Obviously, I was at the game last night, woken up this morning. Haven't got much of a voice left after cheering that wonderful moment when Bukayo Saka returned and scored within 6 minutes and 36 seconds. I think it is. Just writes his own scripts, that boy, doesn't he? And it was a really, really... I've been waiting a long time for that moment, as did everyone in that stadium. And it was very, very special when he came on, the noise, the cheer, and then for him to mark it by basically scoring a winner in the end as well. Just kind of sums that guy up. So we're going to talk about last night's game in today's show, go over the big sort of talking points from it. Obviously, there were plenty. There was a win, which is important. There was Saka. There was injuries, of course. So we're going to go over that. We're going to look at what Mikel Arteta had to say afterwards. I'll go through my player ratings, share what you guys have been saying as well. And what was a pretty, look, it wasn't the prettiest of football match, prettiest of football matches by any means. It was pretty scrappy, as we've come to expect from Arsenal games this season, really. But it was a deserved win for Arsenal, no doubt about that. And it was a night that we'd all been waiting a long, long time for Bukayo Saka to come back and score. As I said, what ultimately proved to be the winner on the night. Mikel Merino again scoring for Arsenal in the first half to put them 1-0 up. It was a pretty mundane first half. Arsenal very, very dominant in terms of territory. Fulham completely set their stall out with their starting 11. I was outside just eating some food before I went into the stadium, and I was surrounded by Fulham fans because where I sit is right next to the away fans, and they were waiting to go in as well. And I was listening to them talk. They were looking at the lineup and they were really complaining about Marco Silva's lineup. They're like, why are we playing so negative? We've got 5 at the back. We've only got 3 attackers on the pitch. Why are we so negative? And so they set their stall out very, very early in terms of how they were going to play against Arsenal. And as usual, Arsenal struggled a bit for space. Martinelli was the one bright spot in the first half. He had the beating of his fullback. It was right in front of me. And, you kind of, every time he got the ball, you're like, this is something could happen here. Ultimately, it came from the other side with Ethan Nwaneri getting down the right-hand side, slipping Merino in. From where I was, it looked like a really impressive finish. I turned to the guy next to me. I was like, that's really nice. Right foot as well from Merino. But then obviously you see the replay and it took a big deflection before going in the corner. But right place, right time for Merino. Another goal for him, keeping up his good scoring record since he's been playing as a striker. So 1-0 at half-time. I thought Arsenal were much better in the second half. They attacked with a lot more intent. Couldn't find the second goal. Timber went close, obviously, sort of combining with Martin Odegaard. And then the big moment, Bukayo Saka comes on. Every time he'd gone to warm up, you could hear the cheers. But when everyone saw it was coming on, the noise, it reminded me of Henry against Leeds when Henry came back and he stood on the touchline, was waiting to come on. And it just had that kind of feel of it, just the excitement that swept around the stadium and just immediately lifted the whole place. It was just seeing him back. You just feel, that's the right way of describing this. It just feels so normal to see Bukayo Saka. You just feel more confident, don't you, to seeing him on the pitch, even if he hasn't played in a long time. And it was just that sort of familiar feeling of seeing him come on and trot over to that right-hand side. And when Arsenal attacking, you look to your right and you see Bukayo Saka's there, and it's you just feel complete again, don't you? And then bang, less than 7 minutes later, he scores. Brilliant play from Martinelli, who was fantastic on the night, man of the match by a distance for me last night. Gabriel Martinelli, lovely assist from him, sort of flicking on again. Merino, good play, getting down the left, getting the ball in, flick on from Martinelli, and there was Saka. And at times you think, oh, it's an easy goal, but how many times have we seen that sort of thing happen for Arsenal when we've not had the right player in the right place in the penalty area to have the easy finish? But Saka just sniffs those sort of chances out, and he just floats into that sort of position, and the ball falls to him, and he scores. 2-0, and it should have been done and dusted at that point. Really unfortunate that Martinelli's goal got ruled out. It was a lovely goal for a start, but he absolutely deserved one. And 3-0, I think, would have been a much fairer reflection on the game, such as Arsenal's dominance, but it didn't happen. Ruled out, and then Fulham get a deflected goal in the last couple of minutes, and we have to endure that nervy finish. But a deserved win for Arsenal, absolutely no doubt about that. 3 more important points, especially as the fact that Nottingham Forest had ended up winning against Manchester United as well. So really, really special. Just to be there, really, and to sort of just witness his return. And as you can see by the stats, it's an absolutely deserved win for Arsenal, completely dominant in terms of shots, XG. 2-0 would have been a fair reflection. I'm not sure Fulham really deserved their goal, though Muniz did miss that absolute sitter just beforehand. that header at the back post. No idea how he managed to put that wide. I'm glad he didn't score that, because that definitely would have set up a nervy finish had that gone in with the amount, with I think it was about 10 minutes to go, then 8 minutes to go, something like that. Mikel, speaking after the game, then says, I think it's a beautiful moment to see how much our people love and respect and admire Bukayo. He's not a surprise to any of us. And I think the best example is his reaction immediately after scoring a goal. What does he do? He goes and says, thank you for all the hard work that all the sports science guys, physios, and everybody involved in his recovery have done for him to be in the condition that he is in. I think he lifted the stadium, the energy, and it's great to have him back. And that's what I'm talking about. It just did lift the place. You kind of knew it was going to happen, but he did. Just seeing him trot onto the pitch and that energy that swept around the place, it was very, very special. And only there's a select few players that can have that sort of impact on a stadium and on a fan base. On Mikel Merino scoring again, he said it's good he has the capacity to score goals, to sense the danger and to move in the right moments into the right spaces. Today was a different goal, but then you ask him to play as a 9 and he does it perfectly and understands the timing, the position, the role. So good. It's a joy to have players like this. I thought Ethan had some really good moments. Martinelli was superb as well. You see how much we missed him, that threat, that attacking purpose that he has every time he's on the ball. Some good performances. Yeah, Mikel right to single out Gabriel Martinelli. I thought it was a really good display from Gabriel Martinelli. As I said, I was just really disappointed for him that goal was ruled out late on, because he deserved to score. It was a really good performance. And that was Castagna, I think, wasn't it? The Fulham fullback just gave him nightmares every time he ran at him. And that's good to see. It's what you want to see from Martinelli. Obviously, we spoke about him quite a lot in the build-up to the game, didn't we? We were talking about debating his value and all that sort of stuff if you were going to move him on. And yeah, I mean, that was a performance of a player certainly valued at more than 45 million, probably closer to the 70 million mark that I was debating earlier on in the week. We can't have nice things, can we, this season? It's just not going to happen. I mean, is there ever a more Arsenal thing to happen, or this season thing to happen, that you get Bukayo Saka back, you celebrate that, and then on the same night you lose Gabriel to a hamstring injury, and you lose Timber as well, potentially. We don't know about Timber yet. Obviously, it's a knee that he's struggling with. It didn't look anywhere near as bad as Gabriel, as much as you can sort of assess things from your eyesight on the pitch, but we'll have to wait and see. Both are going to have scans. You would think, well, Gabriel's definitely going to be having a scan today on that hamstring, but yeah, look, he's out for Madrid, isn't he? He's not going to play against Madrid. I hope I'm wrong, and I'm not basing that on any information, obviously, but you don't walk off like that with a hamstring injury and then come back a week later. I don't think you don't even come back 2 weeks later. So I'd be stunned if he plays any part in the Madrid ties. Hopefully, look, we're all going to sit here, fingers crossed. I've already had messages. Mark, hello, mate. I haven't replied yet, but I saw your messages saying how you're just going to be praying for Timber and Gabriel now. But I just think it's extremely unlikely that Gabriel could potentially be fit for either of these games now, which is just it. When I say that Saka lifted the energy in the stadium, that injury sucked the life out of the energy in the stadium in the first half. It certainly sucked the life out of me. I couldn't think about anything else for sort of 15 minutes or so afterwards. It was just so frustrating. Mikel asked about it, the early impressions of Gabriel's injury. He said, there are 2 players in this team that never want to come off. Gabby felt something in his hamstring. We don't know how big that is. And with Durian as well, he was already struggling very early in the game. He managed to continue, and at some point he couldn't. So that's the downside. Durian was his knee. On the importance of potentially missing Timber and Gabriel, he said, look, the good thing is, it's been like this all season. You see Martinelli today. We've been missing him for 3 months. You see Bukayo 4 months. Jesus almost the whole season. How we have managed to be where we are with all those injuries. Ben White hasn't participated at all. It is what it is. We want it so much that we're going to have to give it a real go. We're all very excited for next week. On the defense, not just on the problems in defense now, he says, you can imagine we've lost 4 players in the defensive line in 1 week. Calafiori, Ben White, Durian and Gabby. We still have another 4. That's why they're so willing to do their job. Honestly, I don't want to say a season's cursed, but, and again, whenever you talk about injuries, people think you're making excuses. And it's not excuses. And I've never heard Arteta make an excuse for any injury we've had this season. Even there, he's like, we're so excited to continue. We've got other players. We're so excited. We're going to give everything. He doesn't complain. He doesn't make excuses. But it is impossible to look at this season and to assess this season without putting context on it. And injuries have just played such a massive part in this season. And I mean, in a week, basically, you've gone from having Gabriel fit, Calafiori fit, Ben White fit, Durian Timber fit. to all of them potentially being injured in the space of a week. You know, 2 of them didn't even play for Arsenal. One was in international duty. One's picked up in training in Ben White, and then the 2 we had last night. And I've seen people saying, "Oh, Gabriel's been overused and stuff like it." There was never a question of resting Gabriel last night. Why would you rest him? He's been away on international duty. He only played 1 game. We didn't play at the weekend. You know, there's no need you'd be resting Gabriel last night. You know, Arsenal have got to win these games. They've got to qualify for the Champions League. If Arsenal didn't win yesterday, they'd be 1 point ahead of Nottingham Forest now. They have to win these games to make sure they get themselves secured in a Champions League spot. So I don't think you can go into these games now thinking, oh, you can rest Gabriel. Especially when you've got so many other injuries in defence. You know, Calafiori had been out. White has obviously dropped out on just before the game. You know, there was no way none of us would go into that game expecting it not to be Saliba and Gabriel. It's just very, very unfortunate what happened, and it is just in keeping with the season. Can Arsenal manage injuries better? I think they can, definitely. Can Arteta manage minutes a little bit better with players? Yes, I think he can, definitely. But I don't put any sort of blame on him or the coaching staff or anything for the Gabriel injury last night. He had to play that game last night. He's one of the best 2 centre-backs. Virgil van Dijk has played every single minute for Liverpool in the league this season. Of course he has, because he's their best centre-back. You play your 2 best centre-backs in these games. You need them. And Arsenal have Saliba and Gabriel. And unless they're injured, they're going to play these games. They just are. I don't see how you can proportion any sort of blame on the fact that he was in the starting 11 last night. I think he had to be. And it is just a real blow. I'm not going to talk yet really about what we're going to do against Madrid or even what we're going to do against Everton. Mate, I'll talk about that tomorrow probably. Because we don't know yet what the deal is. Like I said, Gabriel will be having a scan today. I don't know if we'll find out anything about him or Timber in the next 24 hours or so, but we probably will. So I'm going to wait until I find out a little bit more on those 2, and then we'll talk about Everton. We'll talk about Madrid, about what Arsenal might do in defence for those games, what the options are. So, yeah, we'll do that at a later date during the week. But it's just devastating, just so disappointing to see him go off, because you would have loved to have seen Gabriel. But I tell you what, I think I'm almost more worried about Timber missing the Real Madrid game than Gabriel, because if Timber's fit, you're up again. You know, you got Timber against Vinny Jr. I mean, Real Madrid yesterday 4-4 against Sociedad in the cup, just about sneaked through. But Sociedad scored 4 goals at Bernabeu, which is a good sign. But then I was watching Vinny Jr. down the left-hand side, and I saw the little 15 minutes or so when we had Thomas Partey at right back yesterday, and he got done down the left for the chance that Muniz missed the header. And I was just thinking, my God, if he's up against Vinny Jr., you know, Vinny Jr. is just going to attack him all day long. They're just going to hit the ball out wide to that flank and let Vinny run at him. So, you know, we need Timber fit for that Real Madrid game. Absolutely. Definitely, of course, we need Gabriel, but man, I want Jurriën Timber fit for that Real Madrid game. I think is absolutely imperative. Okay, player ratings wise for last night, this is what I've gone for. Raya, I gave a 7. Obviously, couldn't do anything with a goal. Disappointing with the deflection. I thought he swept up really well. He's played that sweeper keeper role excellently. A few times Fulham thought they might get through, and there was him to sweep it up. And some of the deliveries into midfield were really, really good yesterday. So I gave Raya a 7. Timber I thought was solid. Gave him a 7. Unlucky not to score. Good little link-up play with Odegaard. Probably should have gone across the keeper rather than hitting it near post, but it was good. You know, the fact that he was struggling with an injury as well in the first half, I thought he performed very well down that right-hand side. So I gave him a 7. Saliba a 7. Gabriel I didn't give a score to. Obviously, only lasted 16 minutes on the pitch. Lewis Skelly I gave a 6. Partey I thought was good, especially in the first half. I thought Partey was excellent in the first half. Gave him a 7. Odegaard, again, disappointing night for Odegaard. Lovely little ball through to Timber for that chance. And I thought Odegaard looked brighter as soon as Saka came on. And I thought he got involved in the game more, and him and Saka were already linking up a little bit. But on the whole, I thought it was disappointing from Odegaard. Really poor in the first half, I thought, from Martin. Gave him a 5. Rice, I gave a 6. Thought he was okay. Nwaneri gave a 6. Obviously got the assist in and out of the game at time, Nwaneri, but he got the assist down the right side, which was nice for him. Gave Marino a 7. Another goal, involved in the second goal as well. Just a tireless performance from him. Really does work so hard in that number 9 role. Fair play. He's really doing a job there for Arsenal. And Martinelli was my man in the match. Gave him an 8. Just a really top performance from Martinelli. Saka obviously coming on, give him a 7, no doubt. Obviously the star of the show in terms of headlines and everything like that. But so I gave him a 7. You know, can't ask for much more than that, can you? Kivior I thought was relatively solid. There was one sort of mistake when it led to the shot. Who was it who had the shot? Was it Traore? Had the shot that Raya saved early on in the first half, in the second half, when Kivior kind of got caught in two minds and the Fulham guy got there first. I think it was Traore got there first. But other than that, solid enough from Kivior. And, hopefully, if Arsenal do need him, he can put in two really brilliant performances over the next couple of weeks or so. So I'll give Kivior a 7. I thought he did pretty well. Gave him a 7. Trossard not really involved when he came on. Won't really give him a score. So those are my player ratings for last night's game. Now we'll go over what some of you guys had to say. What's that? Below 87 says Martinelli looked like a £70 million player last night. Yeah, I agree. Top performance from Gabby. Steve says, I know Saka's goal will get the headlines, but I'd like to point out how great Martinelli's assist was. Yeah, that was lovely from Martinelli. Really, really clever. Whether he was going for goal or going for Saka, I'm not 100% sure, but it was a very nice little sort of improvisation and the flick to get on the end of Marino's cross. So lovely stuff from him. Rakesh says, big injury scare, but some good sign. Martinelli's second half was cooking. Gabby, Rice, Ben, Timber, all doubts. Arteta surely cannot be blamed for this one, but I would be surprised if people find a way. But I wouldn't be surprised if people find a way to blame him as well. Some certainly are. I know that. Nostradamus says, you couldn't write this. Saka comes back from a hamstring injury in the same game that Magalhaes goes off with a hamstring injury. Fingers crossed he's somehow back for the second leg in Madrid and that we can start a few fringe players versus Everton due to the magnitude of Tuesday's huge match to come. In Kivior, we trust, or does Timber go left centre-back and White goes back out on the right or vice versa? Well, we don't know about Ben White's injury. Mikel confirmed in his press conference yesterday it is a knee, and that's a worry, obviously, because he's just come back from that knee surgery. He was in training in the build-up to the Fulham game. So obviously he's felt something on the training ground. So we don't know how bad that is yet. I think you've got to not play Timber. Even if he's okay against Everton, I think you've got to not play him in that game ahead of Real Madrid. I think we're going to probably have to play Thomas Partey at right back against Everton. I think, yeah. And when you say you couldn't write this, I think you actually could write this. It's just a story of the season. So I think you probably could. Sketch says, the noise when Saka put his shirt on and came onto the pitch was electric. The way I jumped and shouted Saka with arms and mouth wide open, it was immense. I haven't celebrated a goal like that for a long time. Yeah, I think a lot of people are in the same boat as that. Sketch 442. James C99 says, there were some fantastic moments in that game. It's great to see Martinelli back with confidence and Saka bringing some joy back to our football. It seems Saka's stature has only grown in his absence. Despite this, it feels overshadowed by injury. It's a gut punch to lose Gabriel for Madrid. We know how good our defensive line is, and I wanted to see them given the opportunity to test themselves against the best and prove it to everybody on the biggest stage. It's such a loss that we won't be able to see that matchup without even thinking about the consequences for our chances of winning the tie. What back four would you now opt for against Madrid? Does a weakened backline completely change our approach in the game? Again, I'm not going to talk about that today. I still wanted to include your comment though, James, because I thought there was some good stuff in there. But I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the week when we know a little bit more in terms of what we could do for the backline against Madrid. Dumona says Martinelli probably had the best game of the season against Fulham. Gabriel injury worries me. Hopefully it's not too serious and he'll be fit before the end of the season. Also, we need to praise Marino. He's not the strongest or the fastest, but his IQ adapting to this role is insane. And finally, Sam says, Gabby Martinelli, player of the match by far. So incredible. I blame Arteta for the late goal. It was MLS needed a fatigue substitution. We have Tierney on the bench. Seriously, MA, sort your something out. Every game we sit watching our players suffer through unnecessary fatigue-drenched minutes. It's critical failure of MA's managership, which is otherwise fantastic. Yeah, I mean, he was on the other side to me in the second half, MLS, so I didn't really notice if he was looking fatigued or not. Obviously, he got caught out for the goal and pushed further forward. Thing is, Arteta couldn't make any more changes with 15 minutes to go because he'd made this. I know you can make 5, but he'd made 3 separate substitutions, and so he couldn't make any more changes after the injury substitutions for when Timber went off and Trossard came on. That was it, wasn't it? Because you'd used your 3 substitute slots because he'd used one in the first half and then he brought Saka on as well. So he couldn't replace MLS with after that substitution. Ollie says, well, someone better channel their inner Senderos next week then. Saka, though. Yes, I was thinking about that defense against Real Madrid. It's mad though, isn't it? Again, in keeping with the season, that for the last months, 6 weeks, all we've been talking about is Arsenal's attack. And like, thankfully, we've got our defence to fall back on. Now most of the attack come back, and now the whole defence goes out. It's like, this bloody season. Aaron says the Gabriel injury was predictable as he'd flown to Brazil and back to England in a short space of time. He also played the most matches for Arsenal in the squad alongside Saliba. Time for Gabriel to step in, but I think the injury could have been prevented if there were some rotations. Like I mentioned yesterday, we can't just play the same 11 over and over again for the next 3 weeks where we have games per 4 days. Sorry, Gabriel was always going to play last night. He just had the international break. He only played 1 game. The match was on Tuesday night. I just don't think you ever go into that game against Fulham thinking Gabriel and Saliba shouldn't be the centre-back partnership for it. You know, they were. It's just not. I would never be doing a predicted 11 or choosing my 11 for that game last night and ever not having Saliba and Gabriel in it. I just don't. Yeah, he'd only played 1 game during the international break. Arsenal hadn't played for ages, so I just don't think it was predictable at all. Sorry, I don't. I disagree with that one. So I just think it's rotten luck, I have to say. Right, that is it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. Apologies again for the croaky voice, but it was a loud, shouty night at the Emirates last night. I'll be back in the morning. We'll see if we've got some more news on Gabriel, Timber, anything like that to discuss in tomorrow's show. And I will probably start looking ahead to the Everton game to Real Madrid, and we'll start trying to work out at least what we might be able to do defensively for those 2 games. So until then, enjoy your Wednesday. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.